So the first one, you just have to graph it. So you go to your calculator, you go 2, up arrow, parentheses, x plus 2, close your parentheses, move it over, minus 4. So you graph it. So if you look at this, it's going along right about -4, and then it goes up through 0, 0. If you want a better idea of the points, once that makes the finished little circle up there, you can hit second graph, and it brings up the table, and you can see where the points are. So that gives me a better idea of where to graph. So at -2, it's at -3. At -1, it was at -2. At 0, it's 0. At 1, it's 4. And then if you go up a little bit, you can see that it never gets to actually 4, so you know it flattens out. So 1, 2, 3. So I read that one wrong. At -2, it's at -3, so I put it in the wrong spot. -2, -3, there we go. So -4, it never actually crosses that. So it comes along, flattens out, and then it starts to go up. And you should have something that kind of looks like that. Okay. The next one says y equals e to the -x. So I come here, I clear this out. I hit second ln, that brings me the e. Then I use the negative, and I hit the x, and I go graph. So there, hopefully your graph comes. So there it is. It comes down, flattens out, goes right along the x-axis. Again, if I hit second table, it's going to give me 0, 1, and then some other numbers. So at 0, it's 1. It flattens out along the x-axis. So it comes along here, and then it goes up. Okay, so that's what your graph should look like. It should be somewhat precise so I can figure out what you're really trying to say. Now, question 3, you're supposed to find out how much money $8,000 grows into at 10.5% interest in 7 years. So you're going to use this formula, A equals P parentheses 1 plus R divided by N NT. So I put it in here. P is 8,000. 1 plus the rate, 0.105. Time is, this is N, so quarterly means it's 4 per year. NT is 4 times 7. And so now I just type that in the calculator. So I get out of this. I clear here. So I go 8,000 parentheses 1 plus 0.105 divided by 4 to the up arrow, 4 times 7. Hit enter. So 16,526. So 16,526 and 42 cents. Now it says monthly, so it's the exact same thing. So I come to my calculator, I hit second enter, but instead of that being a 4, it's going to be a 12. So I change that 4 to a 1, and I hit second delete because that's going to allow me to insert a 2 there. And I come back over here to where this 4 is. I go 1, second delete, change that to a 2, and I hit enter. So 16,630.60. 16,630 and 60. So these should be fairly close. Again, monthly, the only difference is the N equals 12. Continuously, we use this PERT formula, principal ERT. So the principal again is 8,000. I hit second ln. The rate is 0.105. The time is 7. Hit enter. 16,683.86. So that's how you do question number 3. Question number 4, you are supposed to use the definition of a logarithm to write this in logarithmic form. So log base 4, remember the base goes here, so that's the base, that's the power, that's the answer. So log 4 of 64 equals 3, base, answer, power. Okay. So same thing over here, log base e, but we don't write log base e, we write ln. The answer is 7.389, and the power is 2. On question 5, you're supposed to go backwards. You're supposed to take this and write it in exponential form. So that's the base, that's the answer, that's the power. So 5 to the 4th equals 625. Same thing over here. 5 to the negative 1 equals 0.2, base, answer, power. Question number 6 says to evaluate this without a calculator. So 2 times itself, how many times is 32? 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 more is 8, times 2 more is 16, times 2 more is 32, so that's 5. I won't know if you're going to use a calculator or not, so if you can't do it without using a calculator, go ahead and hit that. Type 232 in here and let the calculator do it for you. Okay. Now this one, if ever you have an ln and e next to each other, it's like they cancel each other off and your answer is just 7. Because really we're saying e to what power equals e to the 7th. Well, for these things to be equal, that power had to be 7, so that's what that is. Number 7, it says use a calculator, so I'm going to use my calculator and change a base. So I bring that up and I just type in the numbers, so that's going to be an 8 down here at the bottom, 728. We got an extra parenthesis, 3.169. Keep 3 decimal places. The next one, you need to realize that this says the 5th root of e to the 10th. So how many groups can I make out of 10 groups of 5? I can make 2 groups. So this is the same as ln of e squared. So that's just 2. Again, if you really wanted to, you could do that on your calculator of e squared. And it's 2. Or you could have done it with the other stuff as well. You'd have to go ln, math, the 5th one, plug a 5 in there, second, excuse me, E10, go outside of this, close your parentheses and hit enter. So either way you can do it, it'll tell you the answer. So that's number 7. Question number 8, you're supposed to expand this. It says use the properties of logarithms to expand. Do not try to solve, just expand. So remember, a divide turns into a minus. So I have log base 8. Each variable gives its own log. And then the divide turns into minus. So each of these groups gets their own log, which is the ln. So ln of x. A multiply means we're going to change this to a plus. Remember, the square root is the 1/2 power. So the 1/2 ln of x minus 3. So that 1/2 is the square root. So on this one, both of those are under the square root. So we're going to put the 1/2 in front. There's 2 variables, so each variable gets its own log. The cube root, or the cube, goes in front. A divide makes it a minus. The power of 2 goes in front, so it's ln of y. So that's how you do number 8. Question number 9 says condense. So you have log 4. Only one log when you condense. A plus makes it a time, so you have 2 times 3. Or you could make that a 6 if you wanted to. Part B says condense this. So I have a plus and a minus, means I'm going to have a multiply and divide. We're only going to have one log when we condense. The number in front is the power, so that 4 is the power of x, so x to the 4th times y divided by z squared. The minus is the divide, the squared, the 2 is the power on z. And that's the answer. Now, number 10, you're supposed to solve. Rewrite this as a logarithm, log base e, which is ln of 8 equals x. Remember, it goes base, then the answer, then the power. If you want to, some people just like to say if I put an ln next to this, they'll cancel each other out, and I'll do the same thing to this side. So x equals the natural log of 8. So then you can go to your calculator. You go ln of 8. Keep 3 decimals, so 2.079 is x. On part B, again, you want to get the negative 3x. If it's got a power that's a variable, write it as a logarithm. So log base 45, the answer is 146, equals negative 3x. So now I come to my calculator. I hit math. I go up to A. So now that I've got it here, I'm just going to go to my calculator, log 45, 146. It tells me that it's 1.309. That's 1.309 equals negative 3x. So I divide by negative 3. So I go back to my calculator, hit divide by negative 3. So it's negative 0.436. So negative 0.436. All right, so that was 10 part B. Part C, remember if I rewrite this in exponential form, it's e squared, that's the understood base, equals the square root of x plus 1. Again, some people like to teach you just to do this, make this a power, and they cancel each other off, and then you have e squared. So now to get rid of the square root, I'm going to square each side. So I square this and I square that, and I get e to the fourth equals x plus 1. So to get x alone, I just minus the 1. So I have e to the fourth minus 1 equals x. So again, I can come to my calculator, second ln, e to the fourth minus 1, 53.598. So 53.598 equals x. Part D, since I have two logarithms on the same side, I want to condense so there's only one. So I'm going to have log 3, minus turns into a divide, so x divided by 4 equals 5. So now that I've got it in this form, I can just rewrite it. Remember, this is the base, this is the answer, this is the power. So 3 to the fifth equals x divided by 4. So I go to my calculator, I do 3 to the fifth, and it says it's 243. So I have 243 equals x divided by 4. So now I can get rid of a divide by 4. I just hit times, or I multiply each side by 4. So I go back to my calculator, and I times that answer by 4, and I get 972. So x equals 972. So now part E, same thing. I want to get this alone. So I'm going to add the 3 over here. So I have 3 to the 2x plus 1 equals 27. So now that I have it like this, remember this is the base, this is the power, this is the answer. I'm going to write it as a logarithm. Log base 3 of 27 equals 2x plus 1. Again, you'll see it taught. People will say if you just put log base 3 here, if they're the same, they cancel each other off. And what you do to one side, you do to the other. I like the reasoning behind it, so that's why I teach you the way I do. So now I go back to my calculator. I hit math. If you hit alpha and A, you could get there to this log base. But it's 3 and 27. And that gives me out the value of 3. So log 3, 27 is 3 equals 2x plus 1. So I minus the 1 from each side. So 2 equals 2x. Divide it by 2. X equals 1. So now in part F, anytime you have something squared and then in half that number, so just a 1, and then a number, it will factor. You know that rectangle stuff we did? So e to the x times e to the x makes e squared x, or e to the 2x. Remember, you add the exponents, 1x plus 1x makes 2x. Multiplies to be a positive 10 means they're both negative or both positive. That's the only way you get a positive at the end. And since the middle is negative, I know they're both negative. Multiplies to be 10 is 2 and 5, and that adds to be 7. So that's 5 and 2 here. Now I put each of my factors equal to 0. So I have e to the x equals 5 because I'm going to add 5 to that side. I'm going to add 2 here, so I get e to the x equals 2. So now that I'm to this point, remember I can just rewrite it as a logarithm. So log base e, which is ln of 5, equals x. Or if you want to put it this way, ln and ln, the e's go, ln and e goes away. So x equals the natural log of 2. And then you can type those in your calculator. ln of 5, enter, 1.609. ln of 2, 0.693. So that takes care of those. All right, the next question on page 485 in your test, it says, are these inverses of each other? To find out if there's inverses, you're going to take this G, excuse me, you're going to plug in for that x. So I'm going to have 4 parentheses, x plus 3 divided by 4 minus 3. So 4 divided by 4, those go away. X plus 3 minus 3, the 3's go away, and I'm left with x. If they're inverses of each other, that's what they do. They undo and leave everything that's being done to x and leave you with just plain old x. But you must now do it the other way, so I'm going to take this and plug in for that x. So I have 4x minus 3. I replace that x with 4x minus 3 plus 3 all over 4. Remember, this is function composition when we plug g into f, or g of f, we plug f into g. So plus 3 minus 3, those go away, and you're left with 4x over 4. The 4's cancel off, and you're left with x. So the last problem, they were inverses of each other. Number 7 says now write an equation for the inverse of f. So you're supposed to find f negative 1 of x. So remember, this is really y. To find the inverse, you swap x and y. So I really have x equals 2y cubed minus 5. Now I'm going to solve for y. So I add 5 to each side. So I have x plus 5 equals 2y cubed. So now I am going to get rid of that, times it by 2, or times multiplied by 2, so I divide it all by 2. So I have x plus 5 over 2 equals y cubed. And so now what I'd like to do is get rid of that cubed, so I cube root each side. And that's my inverse. So y equals the cube root of x plus 5 over 2 is the inverse of that function of f. So I can write that the inverse is this, okay? Now number 18 says you're started with $24,000 in an account. It has an interest rate of 5%. It grows for 10 years. It's compounded monthly. How much money do you have at the end of those 10 years? So again, that's that formula that we looked at earlier, P1 plus R divided by N, and T compounded monthly means N equals 12. So my principal is 24,000. 1 plus my rate, which is 0.05, because we make it a decimal, not a percent. N is 12, and then 12 times 10 up here. So now I go to my calculator. I type in 24,000, parentheses, 1 plus 0.05 divided by 12, all to the 12 times 10. I hit enter. It tells me 39,528. So $39,528.22, I believe. Now it says look at doing the same amount to begin with, but with a 4.5% interest rate. So A equals P, which is 24,000, except it's compounded continuously. So A equals PERT is our compound continuously. So 24,000, E, the rate 0.05, the T is 10. So I come back to my calculator, 24,000, second ln brings up my E, 0.05 times 10. I get $39,569. $39,569.31. So that was number 18. So I just wanted you to, oh, this was 30 years. So sorry, I messed up on that. So I go back to this. I'm going to hit second enter. Change that to a 30. That's going to be a lot more money. And their interest rate was probably different too, and I didn't look at it that close. Yeah, it's 4.5. So there should be a 4 in front of that. So I go second insert, 4. Whoops, wrong place. 0, 4. There we go. So we get $92,578 after I do it the right way. So that should have been 0.045, and the time is 30. I was in a hurry trying to get this done real fast. So anyways, $92,578.21. for that. So that was number 18. Um, for sake of time, that's where I've got to stop. So hopefully that'll be helpful enough for getting you through what you need to know.